If you've ever walked the streets of New York City, you know the smell before you even see the cart. Sizzling chicken, fragrant rice, and that unmistakable white sauce. It's Halal Cart Chicken, and it's legendary. Thanks to places like Halal Guys, this street food icon has gone global. It's easy to make at home, it's cheap, meal prep friendly, and it tastes incredible when you get the flavors right. I'm MonteCristo, and today on Continue Cooking, I'm going to show you my take on Halal Cart Chicken. We'll stick to the essentials: turmeric spiced rice, marinated chicken thighs, crisp veggies, but I'm also making it up with a twist, replacing the standard hot sauce with Harissa, a North African chili paste that takes the flavor to a whole new level. Press start to continue cooking.
Here are ingredients for our chicken shawarma. You want chicken thighs? I've got skin on, boneless. You can get boneless, skinless if you prefer. I've got a few cloves of garlic right here, juice of 2 lemons. We have some paprika, cinnamon, cumin, turmeric, and black pepper. We have some extra virgin olive oil as well for the marinade. And of course, we've got some kosher salt. The thing is, this recipe for the New York Times is very good, but I like to make more than they recommend. So what I'm gonna do is, it says 2 pounds of these chicken thighs. I'm actually gonna up it to about 3 pounds here. The marinade, I don't think you actually need to change. Like, this makes a pretty good amount of marinade as it is. So I'm not overly worried about that. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do the 3 pounds of the chicken thighs. First up for a marinade, I'm gonna make the marinade in this bowl and then pour it over the chicken. I'm just gonna slice some garlic thinly here, and then we are going to mix up the marinade with all the spices. You can marinate this overnight if you want. We only really need an hour on it. You don't wanna, it's gonna have a lot of lemon juice, so you don't wanna necessarily make it too mushy. We're gonna juice 2 lemons here. We get the obvious seeds out of the middle. Okay, so we've got the juice of 2 lemons. So now, to our marinade, we will add 1 teaspoon of kosher salt, 2 teaspoons of ground cumin, 2 teaspoons of paprika. We're gonna do just a dash of cinnamon here. You don't need a lot, cinnamon's kind of strong. And we're gonna do about 2 teaspoons of ground black pepper. We will do half a cup of olive oil. I'm gonna stir our marinade together, incorporate all the spices. I'm also gonna put just a dash of red pepper flakes in here. So let's pour our marinade onto the chicken. I will get myself a spoon to stir this with, make sure it gets evenly all over our chicken. We're gonna marinate this for an hour at least. You can do overnight if you want. I think an hour is going to be perfectly sufficient for this, so we'll pop it in the fridge. Here are our ingredients for harissa, which is a North African chili paste. I have 7 guajillo chilies here. I'm gonna add a little bit more spice, you don't have to do this, and add 3 arbol chilies, some 4 fresh cloves of garlic, kosher salt, lemon juice, a jar of roasted red peppers, tomato paste, whole cumin. Whole cumin is here. This is whole caraway seeds right here, smoked paprika, some coriander powder, and some extra virgin olive oil. So you might be asking, what is harissa? So harissa is a very common North African chili paste. It's particularly popular in Tunisia, but also in Morocco and other North African countries. It's a way to add spice and depth of flavor to various dishes. So the first thing we have to do is, of course, to rehydrate our chilies. And that is going to be, take probably 20 minutes here. So what I'm gonna do to rehydrate these chilies is I'm just gonna use an electric kettle to get some hot water. You do not have to use cumin seeds, whole cumin, and whole caraway. But the reason why I'm gonna do this is because I'm gonna toast the spices first and then grind them up in a mortar and pestle. And that's just gonna add more depth of flavor, a little bit more freshness to the spices, and add some complexity due to the fact that we are toasting them. I'm also going to lightly fry the tomato paste. So I'm gonna stem and seed these chilies first as well. So I'm just gonna use some kitchen shears to snip the tops off and just dump some of these seeds out before we rehydrate the chilies. I'm also gonna rinse off the chilies before we get them in there, just because Yeah, sometimes these chilies can be a little bit dusty. And the reason why we have to rehydrate them, guys, is first off, you almost always rehydrate dried chilies. And second off, because otherwise, how would we have a paste? It'd be all dry and there'd be just like dry chili flakes in there. It'd be really gross. So we have our dried chilies. This is not quite boiling water, but we just needed to heat up some water to rehydrate. You can either just do this in a pan, or I just find it easy to do with an electric kettle. And you just pull it off before it quite reaches boiling. Just cover the chilies in water, and we're gonna let this sit for, at least 20 minutes probably. All right, so I have a little nonstick pan here that's on medium heat. I'm going to add a teaspoon of whole cumin and a teaspoon of whole caraway. And we're gonna give this a little bit of toasting. We shouldn't need to toast this for very long. We don't wanna burn it. Okay, I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, it's pretty toasty. We don't wanna burn the spices. All right, so there we go. You can see they've changed to kind of a darker color of brown here.
Oh, I smell it now.
Oh yeah, you can smell it. So we'll move those into a mortar and pestle. I'll crush them up in just a moment, guys. The first thing I'm gonna do is add just a little bit of olive oil to this, and I'm going to add my 2 teaspoons of tomato paste. We have our 2 teaspoons of tomato paste here. And you can just use tomato paste in the blend. So we're just gonna fry this a little bit, and you can see the tomato paste is now darker. Okay, so here we go. We have our caraway seeds and our cumin seeds in the mortar and pestle. So we're gonna go ahead and give these a grind, unlock all that flavor. You could run them through a spice grinder as well. So we've ground our toasted cumin and caraway seeds into a nice powder at this point in time. It smells absolutely amazing. So here are our chilies that are rehydrating now. As you can see, they've plumped up a little bit. In the meantime though, we can start to get everything into our food processor bowl. I'm gonna add 4 cloves of garlic. So I'm gonna add our recently ground cumin and caraway. All right, so we're adding our tomato paste here. I'm gonna add 2 teaspoons of ground coriander. Actually, I'm gonna add 1 teaspoon of ground coriander. So we're gonna juice a whole lemon in here. I'm gonna add 1 teaspoon of smoked paprika. So we need a lot of red peppers. Probably about 2 whole red peppers. That's all the ingredients that we're going to need in this besides the olive oil, which we will add as it's running. So the first thing is we're gonna try and get this into a little bit of a paste, and then we're gonna slowly add the olive oil. I'm gonna add 1 tablespoon of olive oil. You can see from the consistency, this is making a nice roasted red pepper and chili spread. Now we're gonna add our 2nd tablespoon of olive oil while it's running. And we should be good. So it's gonna be kind of a paste in the end. Here are the ingredients for our Halal Cart style white sauce. We're gonna have 3/4 of a cup of mayonnaise. We're gonna add some Greek yogurt, about 1/2 cup. And for seasoning, we'll have some distilled white vinegar, regular old vinegar, and some garlic powder, some dried dill. You can use fresh dill though, if you'd like. A little bit of just white sugar, and of course, a little bit of pepper. And kosher salt. This sauce, the white sauce, oh boy. You look at they give you, Halal Guys now that they've franchised, gives you these packets. And do not look at the calories and nutritional information on those packets of white sauce, guys, because there's a lot of oil in there. There's a lot of saturated fat. We're gonna use 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt. Remember that there's already salt in the mayonnaise, so we don't need to add quite a lot of salt, just a little boost. We're gonna use a full teaspoon of sugar here. Okay, 1/2 teaspoon of dried dill. If you're doing fresh dill, you can probably use a whole teaspoon or even more, depending on how much you like it. And about 1 teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper. All right, 2 tablespoons of white vinegar. And then after that, we just go ahead and mix this all up, integrate the vinegar into the sauce, make sure that sugar all gets dissolved in here. You may have to add a little bit of water to this to get to a more drizzling consistency. Please don't eat this entire bowl of white sauce at once. That's not recommended for your health. Here are the ingredients for our Halal Cart style rice. This is going to have some aromatic spices like turmeric and cumin, which will give it a lovely golden color, which is exactly the color you'll see in the halal carts of New York City. First, we're going to toast some rice, so we need a little bit of butter to do that. We need basmati or another long grain rice. We have our turmeric, our cumin. I have some homemade chicken stock here. You'll need 2.5 cups, whether it's store-bought or homemade, some pepper, and some kosher salt. First up for our rice, guys, we are going to toast rice in butter. We're going to fry it in butter. Obviously, this will add to the richness of it, but the most important part is really that we just want to get some of the nutty flavor into the rice. So we'll use a couple tablespoons of unsalted butter to accomplish that. I'm gonna go ahead and put these into a pan here onto the stove. You're gonna use a saucepan for this because we're gonna cook rice on the stove top. In the meantime, we're gonna get about 1.5 cups of long grain rice ready. We're gonna add 1.5 cups of this rice. You'll see that the rice is going to absorb a lot of this butter, which will make it extra delicious. So you can see we're getting some brown color on the rice now, which is what we want. Okay, at this point in time, I'm going to add 1/2 teaspoon of turmeric, and I am going to add 1/4 teaspoon, so just a little bit of cumin, so we'll get that kind of earthy sweetness from the cumin. So we want to wake up those spices. The rice is very warm, so when we distribute this out, it'll wake it up really nicely. This is homemade chicken stock that I made with some pieces of a rotisserie chicken. I'm gonna just crack some fresh black pepper in there, 1/2 teaspoon or so. I'm gonna turn the burner back on, and we are going to bring this up to a boil. This is boiling now, so what I wanna do is I wanna reduce this to a simmer. My burner is very powerful, so I'm gonna turn this down to low. I like to have some fresh vegetables in this. Like I said, if you go to the halal carts in New York, a lot of the time they're just gonna have some fresh tomatoes, some maybe shredded iceberg lettuce on the side. I'm just gonna go ahead and stripe the skin of this cucumber. So I'm gonna cut this at an angle so we get nice big slices like that. I have these grape tomatoes. I'm just gonna slice these guys up. They're nice and sweet. One thing that we can do right now actually is get some red onions ready because we wanna cook these with the chicken. So we have like nice charred red onions to go with our meal, which I think is great. I'm gonna cut these into like quarters per half. So we got nice big wedges. All right, there's our thyme. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take our rice off the heat. So I had it on a different burner. We're gonna take it off the heat. I'm not gonna lift this up to show you because I wanna keep the steam in there. This is gonna need to sit probably for another 15 minutes or so. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this down on a trivet. Meanwhile, we're gonna start the process of cooking the chicken. So I'm gonna use a stainless steel skillet because I know we can get this is great for getting the skin on the chicken super crisp, right? This is a 12-inch all-clad stainless skillet. And then I'm gonna use a 12-inch cast iron at the same time, which will probably put a little bit more of a char on there. First thing we're gonna do is, now that we have the chicken, is we're gonna toss our red onions in the marinade. This is gonna get a little bit of olive oil on them too, so that they grill up nicely. All right, so here's our chicken that is now, we've got it coated with our red onions. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start to turn on our 2 pans here. I'm gonna put a little bit of olive oil into the bottom here just to make sure we don't stick the chicken on. So I'm gonna put 3 of these chicken thighs skin side down in here because that's gonna crisp up the skin really nicely. This is on kind of like medium high. I'm gonna turn this down to medium now because the pan's already heated up. So we also have this cast iron pan that is now smoking. So I'm gonna do this 2 ways basically. So I'm gonna add more chicken thighs and some onions to this. The onions are gonna go onto this pan because I know I'm gonna get a nice char on the cast iron. I'm adding a bunch of onions to this one. Look at that, guys. Look at that sizzle. Woo! We have our rice that is now finished and it's been sitting for a nice long time. We did not burn any to the bottom, which is excellent news. And we have this beautiful toasty golden rice with the turmeric and cumin. Here's our nice and crispy pan-fried, ooh, so crispy on top, pan-fried chicken thighs. And we also, in our cast iron skillet, charred up these red onions. All right, here's our white sauce. This is what I mean when it gets cold, you know, sometimes you're gonna wanna I'm gonna add a little bit of water because it's kind of goopier now. And the water you'll just see kind of goes on top, but we'll be able to mix it in nicely. It was really nice turmeric rice. And we have our pan-fried chicken shawarma, chicken thighs, and the tangy white sauce with the harissa, so you have that smoke flavor in there. I'm in Korea, but this takes me back to New York City. We have these delightfully charred red onions and the fresh tomatoes, and it makes just such a good meal. The chicken and all of the spices, you can really taste the cinnamon in this as well. It's excellent.